I think one of the biggest misunderstandings in modern wellness culture is this idea that discomfort is automatically bad. That if something feels hard or awkward or challenging, frustrating, or even emotionally uncomfortable, then something's wrong. But when you look at human growth, physical growth, psychological growth, emotional growth, even skill development, confidence, resilience, all of it requires challenge, not overwhelming challenge, but appropriate challenge. I'm your host, Hannah Teutcher, and you have found yourself at the Pilates Exchange. This is the podcast where we look at the intersection of science and art of teaching, Pilates specifically, and studio ownership. I believe that this conversation about challenge really matters in movement spaces because as coaches and teachers and studio owners, we are constantly trying to find this balance between supporting people and challenging them enough that they grow, because confidence is not built by avoiding difficulty. Confidence is built by surviving difficulty. Like Chris and I have this entire workshop that we're actually going to be teaching in a few weeks, like 3 or 4 weeks, just about this, about grit, about resilience through teaching in Pilates. It's about surviving the hard things and discovering through that, like, oh, I can do hard things. And if I'm going to be honest, this is the one of the greatest gifts as a coach you can give someone by not making things endlessly comfortable, but giving them appropriate challenges. It's creating an environment where people can safely struggle and come out stronger on the other side. So today, in this episode, we're going to talk about appropriate challenge. We're going to talk about resilience, grit, nervous system safety, coaching, and why safe environments should be still something that we're looking for. And yeah, I hope that you're ready to go on this journey with me. As a movement teacher, that growth requires stress. Like the body literally adapts through stress. That is how you get stronger. Strength training is stress. Learning is stress. Balance training, falling over, getting back up again, that is stressful. Having difficult conversations, that's stress. Starting something new, first time someone comes to your studio, that's stressful for them. Sometimes it's stressful for you as well. All of that means that adaptation requires load. And I think that's something that we often forget because modern culture swings between these two extremes. One side is saying, push harder no matter what. No pain, no gain. Just grind through. And then the other side is saying, avoid discomfort at all costs. But I have to say, I think that neither extreme is very healthy. It's about really finding that middle point. Overwhelm does not build resilience. Neither does permanent comfort. Human beings actually need a manageable challenge in order to develop the capacity to do hard things. And I think that applies far beyond the movement, far beyond your studio. And people become more resilient by practicing their resilience, by recovering from difficulty, by tolerating the frustration, by getting frustrated and getting through it, by adapting, by trying it again, by not avoiding every uncomfortable experience. And that's where I think that our coaching becomes really nuanced because challenge itself is not the problem. I guess the real thing for me is what is an appropriate challenge? And I think that there's a big difference between appropriate challenge and overwhelm. And there's a distinction there because productive stress and overwhelm are certainly not the same things. And I think it comes down to how it feels. Like a good challenge feels effortful. It feels engaging. It feels just a little bit out of the comfort zone, but it's still manageable. And overwhelm feels chaotic. It feels unsafe and panicked and hopeless that you're never going to be able to do the thing. It feels like impossible to recover from. I think, I think that good coaching lives somewhere in the middle. And I'm always talking about this or thinking about it in our movement classes. I'm thinking about how we integrate it into our studio. Like an example is a client shaking during an exercise is not automatically bad. A client concentrating intensely is not bad. A client struggling a bit to get it, to learn it, is not bad. If it's an all the time thing, yes, maybe we need to reevaluate it. But sometimes, I think most of the time, that struggle is exactly where the learning is happening. So if somebody is completely losing their breath, if they feel trapped, if we give them feelings of shamed or they're ashamed, if they're disassociating in the center, if they're panicking, if they don't have any agency, that's not good. None of that is good. We probably exceeded way beyond that productive challenge part of it. And I think that great coaching become very skilled at reading the line. This comes through practice, through trying things out. I don't think that this perhaps is where any teacher trainings or any of these short teacher trainings are really looking or having conversations about this. A lot of the times it's just you have to learn, you have to try it, you have to do it. So reading that line, like you're going to get skilled at it by doing it. Not by making everything easier for them, but by knowing how much challenge somebody can successfully, what's a good word for it? Successfully metabolize. Maybe that's a good word. Because successful, like getting over the struggle is what builds confidence. Repeated overwhelm destroys it. Like that's not where we want to go. And I just want to be clear, like I don't believe that real meaningful challenge means like integrating every prop that you have in the studio into your class. That's not what I'm talking about. That's just chaos. That's overwhelm. I am not talking about subjecting your clients to every IG exercise that you see onto your clients. There's a lot of crap that's out there. That's not what I'm talking about at all. Challenge can look a lot of different ways, but that's not the one that I'm talking about, just to be clear. Confidence becomes what we're after. That is the biggest goal that we are looking towards in our environments, and confidence comes after the challenge. And I think that this is one of the biggest mind shifts that we can help people understand. You can't be confident before the challenge happens. Like you have to go through it and get through the hard thing in order to get there. So people are often waiting to feel ready. And this is for our clients that are coming in, but it's for you as a teacher as well. You need to do the thing. You need to do the hard thing to get confident in what you're doing. And this is also for studio owners. Like you are learning a lot through doing the hard things. You can't wait until you know how to do everything perfectly before you open your studio. You have to go through it. You have to learn it. You have to meet the challenge where it is in order to get through it, to learn something. And then that's where real confidence is built. And think about any meaningful thing for you, like your first class, your first teaching experience, if you're a dancer, the first performance. It could be as simple as your first difficult conversation. If you're a studio owner, we have to have a lot of those difficult conversations. Doesn't even need to be that. Your first workout back after an injury, or maybe it's the first business risk that you took as a studio owner. Most people don't feel fully confident beforehand. You become confident afterwards because confidence is evidence, right? Like it's your nervous system learning. I survived it. I adapted. I can handle more than I thought. And honestly, I think this is why movement spaces can be so powerful psychologically. People come into the room thinking that they're weak or they're disconnected or incapable, and you teach them through the movement experiences that you're creating that they're not. They come in thinking, I'm too old, I'm too injured, I'm too inexperienced. And you create a challenge that they surmount, and they prove to themselves that they were wrong. They discover, hey, I'm more capable than I realized. And that's where the transformation happens in our spaces. I also think that there's this nuance of we want to create safe spaces for all of this to happen, but safe doesn't mean easy. I think this is one of the biggest misunderstandings that's out there. Psychological safety does not mean removing all difficulty. A safe environment still can include hard work. It includes failure. It does. It includes trying something and not being great at it at the first time. It includes uncertainty. It includes accountability and vulnerability and again, that challenge. I think that true safety allows people to take bigger risks because they trust from you that you're not going to humiliate them. You're going to make sure that the class doesn't laugh at them. You are going to make sure that they're not punished for not knowing something or not being able to do something. You're going to make sure that you don't dismiss their fears about something or their questions. And they're not going to be abandoned if they struggle to get something. And honestly, I believe, unfortunately, that some people have never experienced that before, especially in fitness spaces. A lot of the times they've experienced shame and comparison. Comparison is really big. It's always been there, but I feel like in this very outwardly facing social media world, comparison is a big problem that we need to address in our spaces. It could be intimidation. They've experienced criticism, perfectionism, like how they're judging themselves. And so they box themselves in, and people can sometimes become afraid of the challenge. Challenge is not the enemy. Unsafe environments where they would have experienced all those other things are the enemy of this growth that we want. As a Pilates studio owner for over 11 years, I've seen and used a lot of booking platforms. And to be honest, most of them have pretty similar features. So when it comes time to switch your software, it can be really hard to choose what is the best fit for your studio. And that's why I want to tell you about one of the platforms I really believe in, Offering Tree. Offering Tree is built for community studios, the ones who are in it to help their clients find movement they love and who want to build something that's sustainable, not just scaling at all costs. One thing that sets Offering Tree apart is that they stand behind you every step of the way. Their support is unlike anything else in this space. When you email them, a real person responds, someone who knows your name and your business, and they stay with you until your issue is resolved. Studio plans include free data migration, one-on-one onboarding, live office hours, twice monthly coaching calls, and an active community of business owners who are on the same path as you. This is what holistic support actually looks like. If you're ready for a platform that feels like a partner, head to the link in the show notes to see what Offering Tree can do for your studio. Don't forget to tell them we sent you to access your exclusive discount. One of the most powerful things that we could do as studio owners and teachers is create places where people can try, they can fail, they can learn, and they continue anyways. And that's where that resilience is going to be. That's where it's going to be built. We think about, pain, fear, and identity. All of that comes together too, because this conversation is incredibly important when we're talking about people that are in pain or people coming back from injury, because people stop trusting their bodies after pain, after illness, after sickness, after cancer, all of that. And honestly, it makes totally sense. Pain is something that can change someone's relationship to themselves and, of course, to the movement. And then every sensation that they do can feel threatening. It can feel unsure. It can feel dangerous. And each setback that they have becomes a story that they're telling themselves in their brain, like everything feels catastrophic. Oh, I'm never going to be able to do this again. And unfortunately, some coaching environments unintentionally like they just reinforce this fear. And it's not malicious. And I think that what's happening is, I know that what's happening is that the teachers are wanting to do the right thing, right? They're wanting to protect people. They want to protect people from injury. They want to protect people from pain. But there's a difference between supporting somebody and constantly reinforcing the idea that they're fragile. Because what we now understand from pain science is that pain is incredibly complex, and pain is not always a direct measurement of tissue damage. Yes, the nervous system matters, stress matters, fear matters, previous experiences matter, like we were just talking about. Belief matters. What do you believe is going to happen in this moment? And the context matters as well. So if somebody constantly in the studio space, the client is constantly hearing, be careful, are you okay? Don't do that because XYZ, your body is unstable, or careful for your back, or, we want to protect yourself. You should never do this. That messaging, I think it's coming from the right place, but this is not the right way to do it. The messaging that comes out of that type of talk becomes part of the client's identity. They stop seeing themselves as being adaptable or being capable. They stop trusting themselves of being able to experience the movement and knowing themselves what feels good and what doesn't feel good. So I think one of the most healing things we can do is help people discover their capability. I'm not talking about being reckless and ignoring pain and pushing through everything. That is not it. But I'm talking about helping people experience safe successes again, like in increments, especially if they're coming back from something pain, experiencing pain, illness, or injury. Helping them experience movement without panic, challenge without catastrophe, and maybe like it's that experiencing effort, hard things without fear. Because confidence after injury or after illness is rebuilt by evidence. And the evidence is getting through the challenge and proving to themselves they can do it. Tiny experiences over and over and over again teach the nervous system, I'm okay here. I can do this. I can adapt. I'm not broken. And I think that distinction, these tiny wins, are what matters in the long run. I think this is one of the hardest things for clients returning from injury, is that they are trapped between these two extremes. And I am not talking about, as Pilates teacher and Pilates studio owner, I'm not talking about doing rehab in your spaces unless you are trained to handle people that are in a rehab environment. If you're a physical therapist, great. If you're like great, then fine, this doesn't pertain to you. But I'm talking about they've been cleared for exercise, and there's this space between cleared for exercise, they finish their treatment of whatever that is, and then they're in the space again in the studio, and they need to build that confidence. And sometimes they feel like they need to push through, and that it swings between, it's like, oh, I have to push through, or complete avoidance of the previously injured space, like injured joint, so it's somewhere in between, because the healing requires graded exposure of the thing. Like I was saying before, small manageable challenges, they need to rebuild tolerance gradually. And honestly, that's not very different from strength training itself. Adaptation happens progressively. You should know that from strength training. You need to do the hard thing to get further. And psychologically, this matters. So if someone is avoiding movement completely out of fear, their world becomes smaller and smaller. They stop trusting themselves. But if challenge is reintroduced carefully and successfully, step by step, something powerful is going to happen because people reconnect to their agency and their autonomy. They reconnect to the possibility, to their own confidence. And I think this is where language as a coach becomes incredibly important because we can create hypervigilance or we can create empowerment. We can constantly be directing towards their limitation, or we can help clients notice capacity, adaptation, progress, resilience. Like we can celebrate the successes when they get there. I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I still have high standards in all of this. And it doesn't mean that pretending the pain that they've experienced isn't real. I'm just saying that humans are adaptable organisms and people need environments to remind them of that. We don't need environments that constantly reinforce fear. And I've done plenty of episodes about how our words really matter. And honestly, I think this conversation applies far more to far, far, far more people than those just recovering from injury or illness. There's a lot of people out there that are believing that they're fragile, and great coaching, the ones that, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm putting you in the category of great coach because you're doing the work, you're doing the thinking, you're doing the stuff that really is going to support people in the long term. And great coaching can help change that person's story. I think we're living in a time where many people have just lost tolerance for discomfort, not because they're weak, but because modern culture often teaches immediate escape from discomfort. It shows up so many different ways. Discomfort appears and we distract, we scroll, we quit, we numb through a lot of different ways. We avoid it. Then people become scared of looking bad. They become scared of being beginners, struggling publicly, not being instantly good at something. But, like having those conversations about being the beginning at something, like that is part of mastery. Struggle is part of learning. And I think movement spaces can either reinforce that fragile mindset or you're helping them become more adaptable. It's that supported exposure to challenge through experiences that teach them, I can stay with this, I could do this, I could breathe through this, I can adapt, I can modify, I can recover, all of those things. That's grit. It's not emotional suppression. It's the ability to remain engaged with difficulty without collapsing. It's about creating spaces where the challenge is just manageable enough that they could get through it. I think that it's about finding that edge without pushing someone off the cliff. Because if the challenge is too low, people are going to get bored, they're disconnected, they're understimulated. If it's too high, people quit, people panic, they stop, they shut down, they just stop trusting themselves completely. And it's somewhere in that middle space. And it's, the hard thing is that I can't give you the blueprint of what exactly that looks like. A lot of it is going to depend on you and your teaching, like how you set up challenge. And it's also going to be on the client, the person in front of you, the body in front of you. We talked about this in the previous podcast about Each person brings their own stuff into the space, but in this middle, this is where the powerful things happen, like all that good stuff. And I think those great teachers, the best teachers, understand that different people need different levels of challenge. I in our studio space, like we allow a lot of autonomy for our clients to choose where they feel they are. Some people need an enormous amount of challenge and they're going to grow into it. Maybe they shouldn't be in that class at all. And as long as we deem it safe, but they need the psychological push to get there. And we've seen incredible growth really from people and others need a little bit more, say, padding. They maybe will always choose the beginning class, and we have to say, hey, you're ready. Try this exercise, try this next level. Each person is going to be totally different. So in our studio space, in my studio space, we allow the autonomy for people to choose, but we also have, on the back end of this, we have coaches there that are step-by-step with them. We're always checking in to make sure that it's an appropriate challenge. Not everyone's studio is going to be set up like what mine is. And that's okay. We're working with adults. This is Pilates space. I would say most of us are working with adults. So, that we could trust that they're making good decisions for themselves. Some people just need reassurance. Others need permission to push harder. Some people need recovery. Others need more belief in themselves. And we're going to create that through the environments. We're creating that through careful observation in our teaching, and it's not just programming. I think one of the most empowering things a person can experience is really realizing that I could do difficult things safely. Not perfectly, not effortlessly, but safe, because appropriate challenge teaches people capability, adaptability. It teaches self-trust, resilience. And I honestly think the goal of great teaching is not about creating dependency. They should not feel dependent on you to do this. You are helping people become more capable humans, more resilient humans. People who trust themselves more deeply because they've practiced meeting difficulty instead of running through it, running far away from it. I mean, that's one of the most important things movement can teach us. It's not just about doing Pilates exercises. It's not about the shapes. It's not just about how to move better. It's about how to stay engaged when life gets hard. That is my 2 cents on where I really think the magic of all of this is. Thank you for listening to the Pilates Exchange. As always, I invite your thoughts. Send me a message, send me a voice message on IG. I listen to everything. We'll see you next time. Happy teaching, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.